basically it's here for the whole new teen book spotlight. So our theme for this week, we are taking a look at stories that are inspired by classic books. Basically, they're classic retellings. Now we have a whole amazing combination of books, some of which maybe you've heard of the classic, or maybe this will be your first time hearing about this classic book. But the authors then take this inspiration and they use it to their advantage, and they sometimes stay true to the retelling in terms of the classic viability. Other times there's some loose interpretation, but we have 6 amazing books to share with you, so let's get started. Our first one is Prom and Prejudice. So, Lizzie's a gifted student, she's a gifted pianist, but she's also on scholarship at the elite Longbourn Academy, which is the lowest rung on the social ladder you possibly could be. And she really doesn't like it there. The only person she likes is her roommate Jane. Everyone else she thinks is incredibly stuck up and snobby, especially Will Darcy, but she's stuck having to tolerate him. Because her roommate Jane, she's kind of crushing on this guy, and his name is Charles, and Will happens to be Charles's roommate. So he's always tagging along, just like how Lizzie's always stuck tagging along with Jane. So they kind of tolerate each other as the year goes on, and then it starts to become prom season, which is one of the biggest times of years at this Longbourn Academy. And Jane knows that she's not going to be attending. She's not like caught up in all the drama with it, but she starts to figure out sometimes that life has other plans, and she soon finds herself realizing that people she thought she knew and what she knew about them, maybe she doesn't know anything about them at all, and maybe that also includes herself. So if you like lighthearted romances, then you will love this Jane Austen-inspired take on Pride and Prejudice. This is Prom and Prejudice. Our next one is Ophelia. So you may know the story of Hamlet, you know, one of Shakespeare's classics. But this version is told through the point of view of Ophelia. But our story starts out the same way as, you know, the Shakespeare classic version does. But where things start to veer off is that in the classic, Ophelia dies. In this one now, she doesn't die. Instead, her story then continues with her secretly marrying Hamlet and then needing what she needs to do to save her life, as Hamlet starts to make his descent into madness, complete with her having to fake her own death in order to survive. So filled with action, adventure, mystery, political and palace intrigue, this is one that is kind of a slow start, I'm not going to lie to you, but stick with it because it does pick up and it is so worth it. Well, it's inspired by the Shakespeare classic, it does expand upon the story, there is some creative license, but sometimes that can be a good thing because it brings a character to life in other ways that maybe you hadn't even considered. This is Ophelia. Jake Reinvented. In this modern take on The Great Gatsby, Rick comes home from summer vacation to find that there's a new it guy that's taken over their high school and the social structure in their community. So Jake is everything Rick knows he's not gonna like. He cares about his appearance, he's a football player, and he throws these huge parties. But when Rick and Jake actually do meet, Rick finds that he really does like Jake. And believe it or not, like Jake likes Rick, and they become these fast friends. Quickly though, Rick learns that Jake has it bad for Dee Dee, who's like this really super popular girl in their school. And she also has a boyfriend, by the way, but Jake has it bad for Dee Dee. And Jake is not who he is. What he's making himself out to be is not who he really is. And in order to try to land the girl of his dreams, he has gone through this transformation, and it's probably not going to end well. Whether or not you've read the classic material from which this story is inspired, you'll be engrossed in the lives of these characters, and you will want to know what happens to them all by the end of the book. This is Jake Reinvented. This dark endeavor. So Conrad and Victor Frankenstein were twins, but they were also best friends. So when Conrad becomes deathly ill, he's 16 years old, it's not looking good. Victor decides he knows what he can do to save his brother's life. And that is he needs to find all of the ingredients to create what's known as the elixir of life. And this elixir of life has the power, or Victor believes has the power, to restore his brother's health. But this elixir is also forbidden to be made under law. Plus, a lot of times, as the legend is told, this elixir doesn't end up saving lives, it ends up killing their lives. But Victor doesn't believe it. He knows this is what he has to do. So listening to the help of his best friend Henry and his adopted sister Elizabeth, they set off on a journey that will have them traversing the globe to find these ingredients. But they are going to find themselves in more danger than they ever thought possible, and the biggest threat may be Victor himself as he starts the descent that becomes to him being known as Dr. Frankenstein. So this is the first in a duology. This Frankenstein-inspired story is one that will haunt you throughout this journey. You may feel, when I read this book, I found myself not liking Victor, but I wanted to get the second book because I wanted to find out what happened to this cast of characters. And this is almost kind of a prequel as to how Victor Frankenstein becomes the Victor Frankenstein that we know from the classic story. This is this dark endeavor. The Madman's Daughter. And I will tell you this book freaked me out. It is not for the faint of heart. It's pretty creepy. There's some gross descriptions in here. You have been forewarned, but with that said, it's a good book. So this book is inspired by a classic which many have not heard of. It's inspired by The Island of Dr. Moreau, written by H.G. Wells, like the Time Machine fame. And Juliet is 16 years old. She's living with her mother, and they're living in London, and her father was this well-known scientist doctor, until some rumors started going around about some of his unorthodox experiments he was trying, and he basically got fled out of London. He abandoned his wife and his daughter to save himself, and they have no idea where he ended up. But at 16, Juliet's mother passes away, and she's left on her own. She's trying to survive the best she can, and it's not going very well. And then she gets word that her father is alive. This whole time, he's been alive. And he's living on this island in the middle of nowhere, and she decides she needs to get to this island. This is the only way she's going to survive. She can't do it on her own. So she makes her way, she traverses the ocean to get to this island, and when she arrives there, though, nothing can prepare her for her father and what he has been doing on this island. Her father has this goal that he's trying to make these semi-humans, these creatures that are part human but also part animals, and then he's literally trying to do this. So she walks into this, and it's basically a nightmare come to life, especially as her father keeps trying to press the line more and more. Juliet, before she knows it, she finds out that it's going to be her life or someone else's, and it's only going to be in her if she is going to survive and get off this island. The first in the trilogy, this is part historical, it's part science fiction, it's part horror. This book is one that you won't want to put down, even though at times you may find yourself having to put it down and walk away just because of how gross and intense it can get. This is The Madman's Daughter. And our last one for this week is Jane. So in this modern take on Jane Eyre, we meet Jane, who at 19 finds herself needing a job immediately because her parents were just killed in a car accident. She's orphaned. She has to quit college. So she gets this job to be a nanny to the kids of this former rock star who's trying to make a comeback named Nico Rathburn. So she goes to live in their house, and as they start to get to know each other and things progress, there starts to be these weird things that happen, like in the middle of the night in the house. Jane starts, first thinks it's nothing, and then, accidents just happen. It could be, maybe the housekeeper, there's this third floor, and no one's allowed to go up in the third floor, and yeah. So as time progresses, she and Nico both start to fall in love with each other, and he proposes to marry her, and that is when a secret is revealed that changes everything for them, both as individuals and as a couple. Even if you know the original story, you'll be surprised at what happens in this storyline. If you love a slow-burning romance, make sure to check this one out next time you come to the library. The author, her name is April Lindler. She also has one called Catherine. That's a classic retelling inspired as well. This is Jane. So these are just 6 of the books that we have here at the library that are inspired by classic books. Maybe stories you heard before, or maybe ones you haven't. But these are completely, they will open your minds and your eyes to different things, and maybe even inspire you to read some of these classics. So we encourage you to come out, check out one of these, or we can help you find another classic inspired retelling. I promise we do have others, and there are more. So I hope you tune back next week when we have a whole new teen book spotlight, and I hope you have a great week.